Hey guys, it's Marissa, and welcome to another episode of Digital Nomad Family Podcast. And if you listened to our last episode, then you know we are in a homeschooling series, or world schooling, or road schooling, or whatever it is that you do for the education of your kids. And if you did not get a chance to listen to our last episode, I would really encourage you to find some time and listen to the interview on the last episode. It was great. It was all about world schooling, and it really helped me understand what world schooling is and what world schooling isn't. So if you are curious about world schooling, go ahead and listen to that last episode. In today's episode, we are going to get to listen to another interview with a very intelligent, very fantastic lady. Her name is Tara Shambaugh, and her family currently live in California in the United States. And while they're not nomadic right now, they were nomadic. And so we get to kind of look back on her time as a nomadic mom with her kids and how they handled school while on the road. And I really appreciated this interview because the way she did school with her kids seems very similar to the way I do it. And so it was really easy to connect with her and understand how they did school and why they did it that way. And I think if you are looking for a way to maybe leave the books a little bit, or maybe not books, but the online curriculum or whatever you're currently using, and maybe you want to branch out a little bit, I think that this style of schooling is going to be a really good interview for you to listen to, because it really it talks about how she went from using 100% like online to, okay, well now we're moving around. So how can we use what we're near to affect the education that our kids are getting? And I love that idea. I love using what is around you or where you're going to influence what your kids are learning. And that's what this is all about. So while it's not maybe world schooling or unschooling, because there is a plan to it, there is not that there's not a plan to world schooling, don't misunderstand me, but there's more curriculum based in Tara's style and what she did, which is awesome. I think a lot of people will connect with that. And so I'm really excited for you guys to hear this episode. Really quick, I want to say a huge shout out to our sponsors, Divi Agency Coach. Divi Agency Coach is a company that helps people that have online marketing or web design businesses take their company to the next level. So if you are looking for a way to elevate or to grow your online agency, Divi Agency Coach, I think, would be very useful. They look at your strengths, your weaknesses, where you are, where you want to go, and then they help you think about the best way to get there. So check them out, and thank you guys for sponsoring us today. This interview with Tara, we're going to go straight into it here after the intro, and I'm excited for you guys to, like I said, hear her style, because I do think a lot of people will connect with it. And I have some links to some of the stuff that we talk about in the interview in the show notes, so definitely check those out. And while you're there, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast. The more people we have following the podcast, the more I hate to say algorithms, because everyone, they act like they're these big bad things, and they're not. But it just shows the podcast platform that this is something that's helpful to other people. So let's maybe share it with others. So the more people we have subscribed, the more potential reach we have. So while you are there, checking out some of the links to the stuff we talk about, go ahead and make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. I would really appreciate that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this interview, and we will jump right into it. Hey there, and welcome to the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. This is the place where families who have or want to have a nomadic lifestyle come together to talk about the highs and lows that this life brings. We celebrate the joys and support each other in the hard. So, if you are a digital nomad family or will be in the future, this is the place for you. We're glad you're here. Hey guys, my guest today is a mom who has experience in both family travel and homeschooling. She has 3 kids and has taken them on numerous trips. And she also volunteered for the Peace Corps in Mozambique. And that just because she's not living a nomadic life right now does not mean that she's not out there seeking adventure. In fact, this past 4th of July, she won an award for best trick at a driving contest. I want to hear more about this. And so I'm very excited to introduce Tara Shambaugh. Please explain, before we get into talking about homeschooling, which is the topic for today, please explain this driving best trick award.
First of all, it was a diving one. That might be my bad with a typo.
Diving.
Being a mom of 3, just fingers going. So it was a diving trick for 4th of July. There was the belly flop, the biggest splash. And I said, I'm going to make the Shambaughs proud. I'm going to enter the big best trick. So
yes.
I was a childhood gymnast and I haven't done any flips or kind of twists like that in years, 10, 20 years. So I just was hoping my body moved in the way that my muscles remembered, and it did. And my kids have never been more proud. Like, they were cheering, yeah, Mom. Yes. I got 2 10s and a 9, and they were like, I did it for them. I said that moment was worth it.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 10s and a 9.
2 10s and a 9. I just did a full twist and a jump. So yeah, it was really cool.
That is awesome. That's really cool. Either I probably even read it wrong when you sent it to me in a message. That, again, 4 kids hanging out over here like speed reader.
Exactly.
I don't,
all good.
diving or driving, best trick is awesome. So as my 11-year-old say, that's epic. So
yeah.
I love that. So where are you right now in the world? Since we have a kind of nomadic themed podcast here, everyone is in different places all the time. So where are you sitting?
Yeah, we're in Santa Cruz, California right now. And throughout our 2 years of nomadic lifestyle, our hearts always came back to this place. So we would come back intermittently throughout the travels, stay a week, a month, and our hearts just always landed. So we said, after 2 years of being on the road, I think we're going to settle in the mountains. So yeah, we're really happy with where we are. And for right now, I don't have that lust or longing to go, crazy full on nomad. I thought it was perfect for the season. And, we're happy with the place that we landed right now. And
I love that.
We continue with our outdoor adventures and, travels in the area. So, and exploring this new area. So, yeah. Yes.
And I know if you're listening and you're thinking, Marissa, this is a digital nomad podcast. I think if we only listen to people that are having similar experiences to us, then we are sadly shrinking the knowledge pool that we could be drinking from. Yeah. And being able to talk to you, someone who has lived this life, you lived this life for 2 years. I have lived this life for like 2 months. So I have to listen to people and I have to talk to people that have more experience, even if you're not, quote unquote, living the life right now of a nomadic person. You have that ability to look at it and say, okay, here's what I learned in my time. You can still learn from me.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I think, with Instagram and all the social media and a lot of people going nomadic now with the flexibility with work or whatever, homeschooling, there is a little bit of being caught up in that. And not to say that that is an important step for a lot of people to take in their lives to, be able to find that freedom. But I think it's also important to remember that if you want to try it for a year and it doesn't work out, or if you want to continue for 10 years and you want to make it a lifestyle, that's cool too. Every family is so different. And for this, and I think, so I did Peace Corps it's a 2-year program. And I think everything in 2 years is actually kind of a beautiful thing, because the first year is so hard and so new, and all the adjustments can be a little bit overwhelming. But the second year, you start to find this excitement and the beauty. And then, my husband and I did it together. We wanted to extend for a 3rd year. And then we had such a good second year. We said, let's just quit while we're ahead. Let's not quit, but let's stop, go home while we had such a good experience. So that's kind of how we felt with our nomadic lifestyle. Let's try it for 2 years. And if we feel like, hey, we need a little bit more stability, that's okay to go. And that's what we were craving. Well, especially me. We were moving around quite a bit. We wanted to see as much as we could in maybe a short time of a year, 2 years. That's not as long as you think to travel.
No.
So we were ready to have the kids see friends, make new friends, and get to do things that they wanted to do, extracurricular wise. No,
I think what you said is something that I say on almost every episode of this podcast. And that's what works for one family might not work for another. Every single family is unique, and you have to say, what's best for my family? Yeah. And if that means that you are nomadic for 2 years and that's what's best for your family, excellent, perfect, do it. If what's best for your family is to never stop being nomadic, great, go for it, do it. Yeah. Something that is one of my husband and I's biggest pet peeves is when someone asks a question and then someone answers that question in a way like, you have to do it this way. There's only one way to do this. Like, no.
If you're nomadic, you can't ever settle down and have a house again, because once you go that way, and there is a lot of beauty to having your eyes open to that, because you really do see the beauty of having that freedom. But also, it's kind of like a give and take. Like when you're traveling, you're going to want a little bit of stability. And then when you're at home, you're going to want a little bit of travel. So how can you find that balance? And I felt like we landed in a spot that we could feel that balance, where we could be our adventurous selves, be outdoors, be active with our kids, but also be happy where we are, to be able to feel the mountain air and the sea air, which was kind of, when we were traveling, those were the places that we were to go to. So yeah.
So how old were your kids when you were traveling?
So 2, they're 3 years apart. So 2, 5, and 8 is when we started. Okay. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy for my daughter. When we left the house, we packed up, and leaving at 2, we moved right into a van, and we named her Munai, and now she's going to be 5 in October. And she said, wait, we can't sell Munai. That was her home. That was her stable home for good growth, where they have a lot of memories, and they know that sense of home. So it is kind of a funny thing for her to have that, a lot of her development happened on the road.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is wild that some of her core memories of those becoming a kid are going to be from your travels.
Yeah. And I'd have to give the credit to traveling to my older son, who before his 4th grade year, he said, Mom, I want you to homeschool me. And we had just rented an escape camper van, and we were having a beautiful moment on the beach, having a bonfire. This was in Washington. And I said, let's just try it out. Let's just see how it goes. This is like a new thing. I think it's going to be okay. And then the first day, he was sitting on his computer for 45 minutes and he hadn't said one word. And he's like, see, Mom, I need this is ridiculous. And I said, you're right. shut it down. We're going to homeschool. And I'm so glad that he spoke up and said something. And I'm so glad that like, we just took that chance, and it was for him, especially like he was deep in we did a lot of cross country trips, and he was deep in the history and the natural sciences of it all, and which was in alignment with his kind of the school curriculum. So that was really cool. You know, 4th grade, you get the free national park pass. So that was so awesome.
Yes. If you don't know about that, check it out. If you are, you have to be a U.S. citizen and have a 4th grader. But you can get free access to all the national parks, which is amazing. So I don't remember right now the name of the program, but in the show notes, I'll leave a link, because if you are in the US and you have a 4th grader, check it out. A lot of schools do a really good job of like telling, especially if you live near a park that takes this. A lot of schools do a good job of making sure that the parents know about this, but some parents don't know about this, and it's completely free. And for sure, check it out.
They have a junior ranger program, which is cool too, because then that takes a lot of the science, you know, bringing it to the road. And you can get junior ranger badges, which we fill the lanyard up of all the different ones. So it's, you know, it's really cool that they get a little souvenir as well.
That makes me so happy. I remember like being in the States and doing junior ranger programs with 2 of our kids. It's just so fun. And it really teaches you a lot. Like some of those junior ranger badges, they worked hard for. Like, it's not just this simple, like, here, color this page, kids. It is not that. Like we went to the Wright brother, it's like a memorial and a small museum. And it was not an easy, it was a lot of pages.
And they asked you
that one was tricky.
They ask you to tell them things they learned. So, you know, you can't kind of color the pages, like you said.
No, it's not. Like, it is like they have to think. And I love that. I mean, they don't hand those things out for free. You have to work for that. So definitely check out those programs. I'll leave a link in the show note to where you can get the 4th grade pass, because it's a great thing. So you said that you talked about your son asking to be homeschooled. So his 4th grade year was your first homeschooling year.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, we did 4th and 5th.
Years did you? Okay. 4th and 5th. Okay. So currently you're taking a little time out from homeschooling, which is a glorious thing. I think, again, if you're listening to this program and you feel like, Marissa, you're going back and forth, I promise I'm not. Life is simply, what season am I in right now? That is all life is. And how do I best handle this season? And so
years on the road, nonstop, you know, not a lot of socialization, not a lot of groups. And then when we landed in a new community, we really wanted to be in the community and just recognize faces. And for us, that meant, let's just take a little time out. Let's let the kids go to school. They were actually, my younger daughters are kind of craving that. My son, he's a little nervous. He's starting middle school. And so that is an even bigger transition. And you might say, why would you put your kid in school in middle school? But again, I think looking at the kids too, he's so social, and he really gets along with a lot of older adults. And I think having other adult figures in his life, I know in the Santa Cruz Mountains, there are a lot of different cool alternative hybrid programs. I just wanted to say, try it out for this first year. If you don't like it, we'll find one of these other pods. But the school's right down the street, and we felt pretty confident enough in that. And, you know, he did a little tour of it, and he said, Mom, they were doing a play of Greek mythology. And we did a little Greek mythology, and he felt confident that he knew some of the stuff. So I think he's going to learn a lot. You know, I have an elementary school credential, so I have that excitement for younger education, but as they get older, also listening as a parent to your own intuition and like knowing where to get help, I think is important too.
Yes.
So I know that there's a lot of other programs where he could get those, extra role models and teachers in his life. But for now, we're going to try this and see how it goes and make some friends. And
yeah, I love that. And I think what you said rings with so much wisdom is trusting yourself, trusting your intuition. Like, I think especially like that mom gut that we have, I think that is a very powerful tool. And listening to that and trusting yourself is, I think, vital in this journey of parenting. Like, you have to say, okay, what does my kid need right now? Yeah. And if that looks different than what you're doing, I think having the courage to say, we need a switch up, that shows your kids that you are a courageous and brave person.
Yeah.
And
I feel more confident now to say, if it's not working, I'll do it. I'll take you out and we can do this if it's really not working. But we're also going to try hard things and persevere. And, this kind of transition of, my friend just texted me because I said, I'm kind of, just having a lot of emotions about it. She said, just think of it as visiting another country and you're learning another culture and you're learning the language and you're learning about the people. How brilliant is she? I loved when I woke up this morning to that. And I said, you just make my heart happy that I have a
friend my gosh.
Like you that can support my feelings in a way that I understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I just connected with that so deeply. Like, and I think the listener, like, I'm sure every single person listening just went, wow, I get that. Because when you step into a new culture, you do feel overwhelmed. You do feel lost. And guess what? You are. Like, yeah. You don't understand the language, most likely. The food is different. The road signs make no sense. And you're like, can we actually drive here? Like, you don't know what you're doing, but you don't feel bad about it. There's no shame connected to being confused in a new culture. And there should be no shame in being confused and overwhelmed with a new season. Mm-hmm. And wow, I'm taking that. Oh my gosh. You got a good friend.
I know. She really is. She's in tune with it all. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I mean,
of course.
that's a perfect nugget right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's kind of take it back to when you started homeschooling. I think something that can make people feel really overwhelmed is when you kind of start talking about the legal, I'm doing air quotes here because I'm not saying that it's not a real thing. It is. But when you've never done anything connected with the government before and you have to fill out a form or you have to communicate with what feels like higher powers, that can feel very overwhelming. Yeah. So you are in California right now. When you started your journey, is that where you legally had to do things for homeschooling?
Yeah. So as far as California, I know every state is different, but we filled out an affidavit online. And with that, you choose your school name and then you can school as you please. And all you have to really do is keep track of attendance. So but what the beauty of homeschooling is every day you're homeschooling, every day you're so really they're getting more days on the calendar than an actual kid in school. So when
you filled out the affidavit and you had to pick a school name. So kind of like for your homeschool, you guys could create like a fun homeschool name.
Yes. And then and then from and you just keep record, and then you have to print out immunizations or any kind of health stuff. But I mean, I have it in a binder. I don't know if anyone's ever going to check it out, but you just have to have it for a few years on hand afterwards. But
and then when the school year was over, did you have to do anything to show what you did as far as here's some papers they filled out, here are some reports they wrote, books they read, anything like that, or just that here's the days we did school?
You don't even have to turn anything. They just want to make sure you are keeping attendance. Of course, being a mom and a homeschooler, I'm keeping a lot of their work and a lot of their progress, right? But that's just for me.
Yes. Yes.
But there's no one out there unless maybe they start auditing, a lot more families.
Okay.
But there's nothing. And so when I registered my daughter for second grade for school, they just said, "Oh, we need her CUME folder." I said, "Well, I've been homeschooling." She said, "Oh, just give me the name of the school and that's it." So
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So really, yeah, but they'll assess her when she goes in, and I know that she'll be just right along with everybody else, if not above or ahead.
Yeah. So that was a pretty simple. What do you remember when you went to start this homeschooling journey? Do you remember feeling stressed out or a little overwhelmed by the legal process, or were you kind of like, "Oh, this is not a big deal"?
For the legal process, no. I mean, I went to people I joined a whole bunch of groups on Facebook, and I was asking, "Is this really all we need to do? Are you sure?" And, just kind of ask the questions over and over, and that's it. So I think that, and I looked it up online. I had my husband cross check.
Yep.
And yeah, so it was kind of a surprise at how easy. I think a little bit, think other states could be a little bit more tricky. So definitely important to state by state, look it up, and especially country to country. So
yeah, definitely. Country to country is a huge thing. And then when we're talking just in the States, each state is its own fun little cuddly monster.
Yeah.
When it comes to what you have to do to be able to homeschool, and then what you have to keep track of, and then what you have to do at the end of the year. Those three things are kind of the big three for homeschooling in America. So know what those are, and they are state to state. So I think jumping in some Facebook groups is a great way to get started. You can be like, "Hey, is there a website that I can go to find out the legal information?" So always a good place to start is just asking questions. So nice. And then when you were doing the school with your son, were you using books? Were you utilizing computers? I know you talked about using Junior Ranger programs and all that kind of stuff, I love that. And I feel like that would fall into the category a little bit more of a road school or a world school, kind of whatever word you want to put on it for that.
Yeah.
How would you say your day-to-day of education was?
Yeah. So it was a little overwhelming, but I luckily had a couple good friends that homeschooled. So I really picked their brain and just got some ideas for curriculum, and I bought it all. I even met with a homeschool specialist who takes all these tests, the kids do tests, and they place you with certain curriculum based on what the test came out. And
wow.
I bought all the things. I did, and none of those worked. So with my,
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
I was sitting here going, I really want to know how that worked. That's hilarious.
And, it doesn't really matter. Don't do the test. Just I think starting unschooling and seeing where the kids really want to go is a nice way. My daughter, I started homeschooling her to kindergarten and first grade. So she didn't really know what to expect with school. So I got the Good and the Beautiful for language arts, and for math, we did Singapore math, and everything else was organic. So, so for my son, I started with the Good and the beautiful curriculum, really easy to follow. And I felt pretty short tasks as well. He did not like it at all. And I was like, "This is beautiful. Look at the art." He's like, "I'm not an art appreciation type of guy." And I said, "You have to learn how to do some writing and, grammar and all that. What do you want to do?" And he said, "I want to write a book." and he wrote 2 books, and they're amazing. They're fiction. They're all fantasy.
Yes.
And he learned how to do everything with that. And then, when he was done with that, I said, can we try to bring a little bit more grammar? We don't have to do all of it, but maybe just pieces. And he said, okay, yeah, sure. That's fine. And then it worked out. I think he just wanted to do what he wanted to do first.
Yes.
And,
yeah. And I think when we allow our kids to express themselves and they feel like, okay, you are listening to me, they are more open to listening to us.
Yeah.
Because it really is a give and a take. And if we are the ones just constantly saying, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, they feel like you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
You're not understanding what I want. And so probably when he saw, hey, mom is listening to me, I'll open up and listen to mom more. Like,
I think you're probably right. Yeah. Cause nicely like that.
It does. It really does. I think when we start to really view our kids as humans, like, I don't know about any other moms out there, but so I have 4 kids. 2 of them are biological. 2 of them are adopted. Especially with my 2 biological kids, it's really easy, as weird as this sounds, for me to forget that they are 2 unique individuals, not just these 2 little amoebas that popped out of me and now I have complete control over their destiny. Like, nope, that's not how it works. Yeah. And so when I release that, and when I allow them to become the people that they are becoming, everything works out a lot better.
Yeah. It's funny, when we were, we lived in Hawaii for 3 months, and we did Costa Rica for 2 months and learned how to surf. I learned how to surf. My husband did as well. I was excited to get the kids into it as well. I'm like, oh, they're going to love it. You know, we're always by the water. And my son did not want to do it. And I was like, oh, it'd be a fun thing to do together. And we fast forward to when we're home for spring break, or home meaning at my in-laws.
Right.
Said, mama needs a break from teaching. How about you guys, you can choose an art camp or some kind of camp that you want to do. He wanted to do fencing. And I have never in my life done anything with it, but he likes to sword fight and he wanted to do fencing. And he did rock climbing. And I said, yes, I told him, I was like, how cool is it that you like things that are so different than I hadn't even learned about anything with the climbing world or the fencing world. And here you are taking on that. And I heard him bragging to different people, repeating that I do things that my mommy doesn't do, and it's so cool that, I think we want to mold them into these things that we think our kids are going to be like, but really they, like you said, they are their own human beings, and they have their own creativities and preferences and likes. And if they don't want to do baseball, don't make them do baseball. If they don't want to do, art, don't make it, so it's been, I think homeschooling has been really, even for me, breaking down the barriers of conditional life, of what we kind of just, we do routine. We think we know this is how we grew up. And then that's not how it is all the time for everyone, yes. So I think if anything, it was probably a harder experience for me to just let those little barriers go of this is how it should be. And this is what I thought it would be, and so it was really beautiful learning experience all around. Yeah.
I love that. I think you are 100% right. And I think one of my personal favorite things about, I don't know if I should use homeschooling. I don't know what we do, to be honest, in my house. My kids, they do things and I hope they learn. I don't know what the word for that is, but I learned so much about myself, and a lot of it is usually to be, completely just vulnerable. It's usually not very nice things about myself. It's usually things like, oh, I don't like how controlling I am. Oh, I don't like how I unintentionally set my kids up to strive for perfectionism, or I don't like how my kids feel like they have to follow my path for them. breaking down these things that I didn't maybe even know I had inside of me.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we are, again, it's not like school. It's not like we're sitting there we're just living life together. And in that lifing process, we're learning stuff, I hope. And through that, it just reveals these things. And then when you find out those kind of, sharp, jagged pieces of yourself that you're like, oh, well, that needs to be sanded down a little bit, you can work on it. But it really is, homeschooling really does teach you things about yourself as the primary, responsible party for your kids' education, if you will. It teaches you some stuff.
Yeah. It's like once you take that step to be uncomfortable and go outside the box, then, it's very apparent and aware, but it's like what we do with it and how we deal with it and how we project or not project and like try to heal things, and try to make things better than what they were, so.
Yes. No, I completely agree. So when you guys were traveling and your kids were learning at home, did you have, excuse me, a schedule, if you will, or did you have kind of a checklist for the day that you hoped would get done? Or were you more fluid? Kind of how was your day-to-day as far as expectations goes?
Yeah. So I did have a checklist, and it usually included like some kind of writing, reading, and math. And I tried to do school as like from, let's say 8:30 to 12:30, but not really, 9 to 11:30, it's all, I tried to do it in the morning so that we could have lunch and have an outing. Cause when we were on the road, when we did like a road trip, we were kind of moving every week. So we would stay Sunday through Friday in an Airbnb, do school. My husband was working. And then, depending on where we were in the state, or during that week after school, we would go on a hike that we heard about that was cool, go to a museum. So every day, maybe 3 times a week, trying to do an outdoor excursion or a field trip or some sort. And then Friday we were off camping for the weekend, usually at national parks, or we, stayed at friends' houses in DC and New York. So we got a lot of cool experiences then. And so that was kind of the routine with homeschool, trying to get it done in the morning so that we can have lunch and like have our excursions. Though, with a flexibility, like I wanted my kids to do some things, but I also was like, okay, you don't want to do that. I'm not going to stress. Can we at least do like something creative instead? Or, but I tried to stick with the checklist to get, because I felt like if I just kind of hung around and waited for them to, be creative on their own, we would work too much. So I had some things in mind, and that actually on the road kind of made schooling a little bit easier, because let's say we were learning about the Revolutionary War, we went to Gettysburg, we just spend a whole day there and forget school, forget being, books, but just like, even if it was just the field trip and then they write about it the next day and that was their school with a little bit of math, that's it. Yeah. So we did, I did want to make it as like, cause we did pack in a lot. I did want to try to make it as efficient or as like enriching as possible. Like, you're learning about that out there. Let's bring it in here in the class.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that is very similar to how a lot of traveling families do education, unless they're completely like unschooling type thing. But yeah, like a lot of, if you are using some type of at home, like writing, like assignment type stuff, then using what you're doing in everyday life is perfect, because they're going to be more like involved and invested when you go to that art museum if they know, okay, you have to pick a piece of art and learn about it and write about it at home, well, then they're going to be like, okay, well, I need to find what art I want and why do I like that one? And they're going to ask questions about it. And if you've been able to get pictures of the art beforehand and talk about it and be like, oh, now we're going to go see this. I know for me, my kids are definitely more interested in things when we have talked about them in some capacity at home and then gone out and kind of done a hands-on thing. And then you can even bring that back and do it at home again. This kind of back and forth, I think can be a very powerful and effective way to do school.
Yeah. I had a proud mommy moment when I was with some friends and we were watching Remember the Titans. And
classic.
There's a point where he takes the team to Gettysburg and the other boy, who's my son's age, was saying, well, what's Gettysburg? That's part of the Independence War. And Tyler goes in, nope, that's part of the Civil War. It's one of the deadliest battles, and like spills out all this. I said, like, that was really cool. And even the mom said, I didn't even know some of the things that he was saying. I was waiting for him to answer. And I said, no, he's saying everything. It was really cool. It's like, oh, because we went and did the field trip, because we like read about the Who Was books were so awesome. And like talking about all the history. So, we read that with it and wrote about it. So the experiential learning is 100%, I think, the most memorable too. How much do they remember from elementary school? All the things that were really brilliant experiences, right?
Yes. And that's what I often try to remind myself of, like, Marissa, how much do you remember from your 4th grade, 5th grade year? Like, in the grand scheme of my education, not much, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not where like the really intense learning took place. Like, I learned things, don't get me wrong, but the things that stuck with me were the things that were hands-on, and especially like the life lessons at those ages, being able to connect what happened and why it happened. And then how do we make sure that this doesn't happen in our community today? And what can we do to keep fighting this battle? Like, taking those things and making them tangible, those are the things I remember from that age.
Yeah.
And I'm watching my kids live that out right now. Like, we were able to go to various places that were different ghettos in Poland during World War II. And we had read a book about the Łódź ghetto. And then we were able to actually stay in Łódź for a couple weeks. Or no, I think just 1 week we were in Łódź. Łódź is a very small city. It's kind of boring. Sorry, Łódź. As far as tourists goes, like, people found out that we were there. I think we were there for like either a week or a little over a week. I can't remember exactly. And people were like, why are you here? And I'm like, well, because we read this book and we have to see the places now because our kids want to. But they talk about it. They talk about this tiny Polish city, and it mattered to them. And they're able to now talk about just the horrors of what happened in ghettos and then in all of the Holocaust, because we did a Holocaust study, because of reading about it, talking about it, and then experiencing those places. And I think that is a way to then help our kids hold on to those lessons. Mm-hmm. So that, because it's not just like when he was, explaining facts, it's not just the fact that he was able to explain facts. Yeah. Like, one, he was able to learn it, which is like, the ability to learn is such a blessing. So he was able to learn it. He was able to remember it. And then he was able to teach someone else. Mm-hmm. Like, how fantastic is that to watch your son teach somebody, Yeah. Like, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, like, and that I think is just a cycle that you can keep going, and we can use this with all lessons. Like, when I tell my kids all the time, I know that you really know something when you can teach someone. Like, that's what I tell my kids all the time. when you're able to teach someone else a skill, that means you know that skill.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if it's a fact, if it's a character building technique, it doesn't matter what it is. But when you can teach someone, it means you know it. And the fact that he was able to teach someone about Gettysburg, he knows it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just share, you know, when they're nomadic, they're sharing about their experiences and teaching about the world, and which is what we want. We're a globalized world now. And like, you know, for everyone just to learn a little bit more about other cultures and be empathetic to, you know, situations and other people. And I don't know, when you're exposing them to that, when you're nomadic or traveling, or they're getting that, whether you're even teaching them about it or not, whether just in the surroundings of it, you know? So
I love that. Yeah. That's gorgeous. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question and then we will say goodbye. And this has been awesome. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I mean, you've taught me a lot just in this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. So my last question is, what is one thing you would tell someone if they're getting ready to homeschool their kids? What would be your one little piece of advice for them?
Oh,
I know it's a simple, easy question.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what was your favorite thing on the road?
I hate that question. What's your favorite country? That's not fair. That's like asking who your favorite child is. It's not a fair question. Like,
it's be open, and homeschooling is different than school, like your regular school. So go with the flow, be open to, you know, learning from your kids or doing something new. And if you're homeschooling, what a gift. You can like take it outside all the time, like go on so many adventures, do the field trips.
Yes.
You know, I know a lot of people do, but just be open to not sticking to a plan and, listening to your kids.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. And guys, if you want to check out Tara, her Instagram is The Classroom Less Traveled. And I'm going to put it in the show notes. And she's putting stuff there about their adventures, and they're a cool family. So I would suggest checking them out. They're always up to some kind of place and doing something, and it's cool. I feel like I learned from your Instagram stories also. Like I'll like watch your stories and I'm like, she just taught me something. That's a beautiful thing. Sitting right there on my couch.
We just hope that we're all inspiring one another, right?
Yeah.
In positive ways. Yeah.
That is the goal. That is the goal. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate the fact that you spent some time with us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.